puts a big smile on my face watching a legend like Jesus, I almost called him Arnold. Andrei Arlovski fight. I mean, the guy won the UFC heavyweight title. It feels like a millennia ago. But, the reason it feels that way is because the heavyweight division has evolved so much. I believe he beat Tim Sylvia to win it, if I'm remembering correctly. But, the guy has just incredible longevity after, and he's been knocked out plenty of times. And, including, by Fedor, by Francis Ngannou, by Anthony Rumble Johnson. I think even by, what's the gentleman? The gentleman that, I forgot what his name was. But he's been knocked out, plenty of times. But he just comes back with a very smart, fights like a wily veteran, smart, conservative style where he outpoints you for the decision. And honestly, I think this is a pretty easy one to call. I think Andrei Arlovski wins this fight by decision, just like I think he's like on a 3 or 4 fight winning streak. And I'm actually surprised that the odds are so close. I get it. Vanderaa is a much younger guy and has a lot to grow. But if you also even look at the shape that that Arlovski came in versus Vanderaa, Vanderaa, whatever. I think it's Vanderaa. I mean, it's not even comparable. Andrei looks a lot more svelte. And obviously, I mean, I know many of you are going to say that doesn't mean crap in fighting. Does mean something. Look, I get it. Roy Nelson knocked out Czech Congo. Roy Nelson's, famously the most unfit guy in UFC heavyweight history. And Czech Congo is probably one of the most shredded guys ever. Looks just amazing, even to this day. Fighting Bellator, he's like 40 years old. He's going to be challenging for the heavyweight title against Ryan Bader out there in Bellator. He still looks incredible. I mean, the guy's just beautiful physique. But, Roy Nelson, mind you, I mean, Roy Nelson also has amazing timing, great power. I honestly think that he has like a kung fu background and he uses the dummy and stuff like that. I almost feel like that gives him good timing and he knows how to catch the jaw. But whatever, that's a side note. All I'm saying is, I think that the fitness does matter. And Andrei Arlovski, and again, it could come out in the later rounds. What he's been doing, Andrei Arlovski, a lot is actually he's been sometimes he wins the first, drops the second, wins the third. But he could easily maybe drop the first if Vanderaa comes on strong and then wins the second and third. I think this fight is again pretty easy and you're getting pretty damn good line. I mean, if you're scared that Andrei wins by knockout or maybe because Andrei ups his game and wins by knockout. But I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, how many fights in a row does he have where he wins by decision? And again, it was punctuated by that one loss to, not one loss, but in general, his recent streak to Tom Aspinall, who's a really good fighter. In general, I mean, he's had a nice streak going. So he had, so if you look, he's won, 4 out of his last 5. And or you can say he's won 5 out of his last, 4 out of his last 5, or 6 out of his last 8. So, I mean, I guess 4 out of the last 5 probably sounds better because he had that loss. He did get knocked out by Jairzinho Rozenstruik. One thing I will say as an older fighter, I think it's also important. It depends actually, because almost like Fedor does better when he takes time off. But usually, if you don't take as much time off, it's important to, because especially as an older fighter, to keep yourself fresh, don't have ring rust. And he's been doing that. I mean, he's been super consistent. I mean, the guy fought 3 times in 4 times in 2018, 3 times in 2019, and then he's been consistent 2 times in 2020. 3 times in 2021, and now he's going to be fighting for the first time in 2022. So I think he's doing a great job managing his career, and I love he always gets paid well. Obviously, I still believe that, that all these guys should be, getting paid more, but, he's still getting a nice chunk of change every time, like you see. And obviously, a lot of times, the full UFC pay is not really disclosed. So you're, but I consistently see 500 or I think 750K. So it's solid. I mean, he makes good money in every fight, and he's been fighting pretty often. So I'm happy for the guy. He deserves. He's paid his dues. The guy was, the crazy thing is talk about picking yourself up from the grounds. Well, first of all, I think it also has to do if you remember he was talking about how if he talks about how he was bullied when he was younger and started lifting weights and going to martial arts that got him, to get confidence himself, and then he became, the baddest man on the planet. You could argue. I mean, at the time, I don't know if the UFC heavyweight championship was the number one. I mean, it could have been, probably was Pride, because that 04-06 time. I think after that it became the UFC, really. So he actually, okay, so he got the Achilles heel against Tim Sylvia, defended the UFC heavyweight championship. No, so he won the interim from Tim Sylvia, then he defended the interim, then he was promoted to the undisputed champion, then he defended it against Paul Buentello. I always forget how to say his last name. But then he lost it to Tim Sylvia, and then he also lost the decision there. Then he had a nice little win, and again, he beat Fabricio Werdum. I wonder if this was before or after the Fedor fight. No, this is actually before the Fedor fight. So when Fabricio Werdum was coming up, I mean, beat a future champion. Obviously he wasn't fully there yet, but he ended up knocking out Roy Nelson. I actually forgot about that. Then he had that 4-fight losing streak to Fedor. Then Brett Rogers was the guy I was thinking about before. I remember him as he was like a mechanic, or like he would flip tires or something like that, but obviously a big, strong guy. Then he lost to Antonio Silva and Sergei Kharitonov. So, he came back from that 4-fight loss streak, which I'm sure many people, this was in 2011, this was like 10 years ago, people probably thought, oh, this guy's done. You know what I mean? Like, coming off like 3 knockouts, basically, back-to-back and 1 decision loss. The guy comes back, wins 2 fights back-to-back by knockout. Then he gets a no contest, but I think he actually beats Tim Sylvia in this one. I think it's overturned because he hit him with soccer kicks. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's how that fight went down. Then he lost to had a nice winning streak. Then he lost to Anthony Johnson. Then he hit another 6-fight winning streak, beating like Frank Mir, Travis Brown, Antonio Silva, and Brendan Schaub. Then he had another 5-fight losing streak, and I'm so thankful that the UFC kept him. So he got knocked out by Stipe, then he got knocked out by Overeem, then he got submitted by Josh Barnett, then he got knocked out by Ngannou, then he got lost decision to Tibura. Then he had a 2-fight winning streak, and then he had another 3-fight losing streak, and I don't remember the fight with Walt Harris. Something tells me that Walt Harris won, but it was a split decision for Harris, but he overturned when he tested positive for looks like some kind of compound. Probably, I assume it's something with steroids. It's a SARM. It's a SARM, so it's kind of like a baby steroid. But yeah, so his ability to come back and put together the victories, and I actually like his style. It's very conservative. A lot of people boo, and he cruises to a decision. But listen, the guy's a legend. He's 43 years old. He's been fighting forever, has a lot of experience. Again, why should he fight like a maniac? What's wrong with him fighting smart? And I do want to touch on Jared Vanderaa, because I feel like I haven't really given him even went through his record. So he actually has a very nice, pretty solid reach, 80-inch reach. That's very good. So that could be problematic. I mean, Arlovski has a 77, but that could be problematic with Vanderaa with his nice reach. But he beat Justin Tafa. He got knocked out by Romanov and Sergey Spivak, which, these guys are solid fighters. But I would put Andrei Arlovski kind of at the level of like a Sergey Spivak, maybe even higher. So, you got to keep that in mind. And then he did knock out Harry Hunsucker, but Harry Hunsucker has been kind of getting knocked out back to back, unfortunately. But so all in all, I do think that this is a pretty easy bet. I mean, the only thing that worries me is what if you grab him by decision at plus 110, and you're not really, you can pay a little bit more at minus 140 and get a money line. So is it worth grabbing a money line? I mean, again, Arlovski has a conservative style. I feel like he outpoints Vanderaa. I mean, I think it might be worth maybe, you are getting a little more out of it, like minus 140 and plus 110. It seems like it's not that much off. But it kind of is. I mean, you're talking about the difference between, if you're putting, what is it called? Let's say you put 1,400 on. Obviously, that's a pretty big bet. I mean, you're talking about the difference between like 1,000 versus, plus 110, 140 would be like almost like $1,600. So, it can get pretty significant as the numbers get. Obviously, if you're putting $10 in, it doesn't really matter that much. You really more care about being right more. I would say it's worth putting in by decision because you're just gonna feel stupid if this fight is boring and he just easily outpoints him. So I kind of feel like that's the play, and I mean it's kind of favored to go the distance. I mean, unless if you're feeling ballsy, maybe. I also would argue that for heavyweights under 2.5 may not be that bad. Just honestly, I think sometimes it's you don't want to. Sometimes you feel like because MMA is so unpredictable, and sometimes when you think that something's too easy, you start overthinking it. So honestly, I think might be the easiest way. The best way to do it is just Arlovski by decision. But again, if someone's feeling ballsy, I still feel like even though I favor Arlovski by decision, I still feel like it's not a bad play to just hit the under 2.5. I mean, if you really want to have a almost like a lock bet, you do a little hedge bet with like Arlovski by decision at plus 110 and the under 2.5 at plus 160. Unfortunately, you're not going to make that much money. You're going to make like half or a third of your money back. But if you're going to put a bet down, I don't want to say it's a lock. There's no such thing as a lock in MMA. Anything can happen. But it's a very high confidence bet. I mean, you're talking about you're covering the fact that if Jared Vanderaa, gets a knockout over Arlovski, because again, he's not going to, I just don't see him outpointing Arlovski, especially Arlovski came into better shape. And just in case Arlovski catches Vanderaa. Because, Arlovski's still a heavyweight. He still has power. And he's a wily guy. He might be able to catch the chin. So, if you really want to be if you're really kind of like too scared to just grab Arlovski by decision, I don't blame you if you do a little hedge bet, taking the under 2.5 at plus 160. So I feel like that's the way to go. And again, I feel like you're pretty much covering most of your bases if you're doing that. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I hope Andrei Arlovski continues his winning streak. Obviously, I always like seeing, new talent and young guys do well. But at the same time, I mean, watching a legend like that, like Andrei Arlovski succeed, I'm always happy for the guy. Please keep paying this guy. Let this guy win as much as he wants. I wish he can make a run for the title. I don't know if he has it in him. I really doubt it, but I'm always rooting for these older guys to go for it, man. I mean, it's never too late to pursue your dreams. Look at Derek Brunson. The guy thought everyone called him the gatekeeper, and he took that personally, and he beat the living crap out of Edmund Shabazi, and a guy who was, just destroying and running people over. So, because obviously, Arlovski is older and has taken a lot more damage, but still, why should Arlovski, be a gatekeeper? I mean, I like that he called out Alexander Volkov, and, I wish him the best. So I really think that's the way to go. And sorry for the long video. I feel like I went a little bit over. I actually was expecting this video to be pretty short, but kind of, you start talking about Arlovski, stop talking about his accolades, his career, his historic career. Obviously a champion is always going to be a champion at heart, and the guy is a future Hall of Famer. So, I can only say good stuff about him, and continues to come in great shape. Continues to take his fitness and his training seriously and training smart also. So, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to my long tirade, but I appreciate all the support. If you could please like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And have a fantastic night, and I hope everyone enjoys the fights. I see that I checked starting at 6 p.m. So luckily, not starting too early, which is nice. Sometimes I don't like it when it starts, really early because I have stuff to do, usually in the morning. And then I have yep. All right. Thanks so much.